was so many tangents. So many tangents. I got too excited. This is such a good one. We're going to expand on this one another time.
We are all about the tangents.
Everything. It all loops back. It's all connected. Oh my goodness. What a moment. Welcome to Electric Enthusiasm, the podcast where we celebrate unironic enthusiasm. I continually forget to write these intros. Katie Cobalt.
And I'm Alexander Kjolf, and I have no idea what my ideal cosplay would be.
Alex, tell us how this works.
In every episode, one of us presents a topic that we're super excited about, or we have a guest on to explain something that we know nearly nothing about.
We also have the moment of meta, where we get enthusiastic about enthusiasm itself, or in the case of today, go on so many tangents. Seriously, a buttload of tangents happened in today's episode, guys. You have been warned.
We think the world needs more enthusiasm, and you can share yours on our website, electricenthusiasm.com, or our Instagram, @electricenthusiasm, and tell us what you're excited about these days. Or you could even plain old send us an email at hello@electricenthusiasm.com.
In today's episode, we are featuring my very good friend, Agent Colbert. A cosplayer based out of London, she is known for her vintage aesthetic, rocking Agent Carter and the marvelous Mrs Maisel cosplays, but has also done everything from Ty Lee from the show's favorite Avatar: The Last Airbender to Velma from Scooby Doo, just to name a few. She is also an incredible dancer and choreographer, and that's where I know her from, co-running the fabulous London Starlings. Welcome to the show, Colbert!
Hello, nice to be here. Great way to start my day.
What inspired you to start doing cosplay in the first place?
So I was always kind of like that dress-up kid that went too hard on like school muffin days and stuff. I think it's because my mom sewed, so she would make us costumes. Everyone else would just show up and whatever, and my mom would sew me like a full Dorothy costume with little ruby slippers.
Oh my god!
So it's like in my blood a little bit. I had a whole dress-up side of my wardrobe until I was like 12, 13. And then a few years later, as I got older, my brother started going to Comic-Con. And he was like, you should go. And I was like, nah, it's full of anime. It's not for me. And then eventually I was like, fine, I'll go. And I was like, well, if I'm going to go, obviously I've got to go in cosplay. I can't just rock up. So I borrowed a shirt from a friend and I went as Amy Pond from Doctor Who because it was easy. Just throw it on and be like, oh yes, look at me. And the first half of the day was not great. It was a Saturday, it was busy. Back then it was a lot more anime focused than it is now. But the second half of the day, I don't know, I think it was quieter and I just had like an amazing time. I did a load of shopping and it was just a really great memory, great day. And after that was it. I'd gone to every con since for the past 10 years. Excluding the one, there was one this weekend, but I'm not personally ready to venture back into large, busy convention halls just yet.
Yeah.
But it's very addictive.
What about it makes it so addictive?
Like, it's just so much fun. And it's a form of escapism because obviously you're dressing up as a fictional character, a thing that doesn't exist. But for that day, you get to feel like that character. Some more than others, particularly with Agent Carter. There's something about you put on a 40s suit and a really sharp, stylish hat. You feel like you could do anything. Like the world is your oyster.
I've got to say, I love that show.
No, people who've seen that show make me happy because when I started cosplaying it, no one had seen it. I would get pictures with Captain America's and they'd be like, who are you? Like they didn't know what the cosplay was. Yeah.
Right. Well, I love the show. I thought it was funny, it was exciting, but most of all the costumes and the hair and the shoes and the 40s aesthetic was just fantastic.
I mean, I'm really lucky. There's a group on Facebook which is just Agent Carter cosplayers. We do a lot of trading pictures and tips on how people do stuff, but also the costume designer from Agent Carter is in the group. So she's actually like some of my cosplays, and she's really helpful because she's like, here's some fabric swatches and here's the buttons and where I bought them. I think it's a level of detail that a lot of other characters, like their cosplay groups, don't have. that we just happened to have the costume designer found her way in.
Wow. Wow. What's been your biggest project? What have you spent the most time on?
I decided I was going to do Roxy from Chicago, from the movie. She wears a fully beaded leotard, front and back, and it's got beaded fringe, and the whole thing's encrusted. And I was like, yeah, I can sew that in a month. Worst mistake. For one, it was non-stretch material because if I sewed beading onto stretch, it was just going to sag and it wasn't going to work. But sewing non-stretch material into a leotard that is like tight-fitted is a pain in the first place. I sewed for 8 hours a day for a month, and I managed to finish the front. The back had like some on it, but basically that day at con, I was like, no one photographed me from behind.
So you basically had a 40-hour work week.
Mm-hmm. I was on the train, like on my way to places, just sewing, like any chance I could get. That's all I did.
I will say, I've seen that costume. The photos, now I think about it, I've only ever seen it from the front, but it does look fantastic.
I still have, so I need to alter it actually, but then my weight fluctuated in lockdown, so I haven't touched it. So it's still sitting in here in my sewing room, just for like, I know this is a podcast, but for the visual people. So this is all hand sewn.
Jesus, woman.
So there's individual strips of sequin, and every sequin was sewn, every rhinestone in between them was sewn, and then I made the beaded fringe on it. Like, this is what took me a month, and still only managed to do the front of it. So that's been my biggest one.
Yeah. What I relate to most here is that every single project I've ever done also starts with ludicrously underestimating the time and effort it will take to complete it.
Yeah. 100%. I've got an event actually this weekend. Me and my friends are going to go to an Airbnb and take a load of photos. It's at this old church that's been turned into an Airbnb. So it's all like spooky Halloween cosplays. Whoa. I've known about this for almost 2 years because we planned it really far ago. We were meant to do it last year. But I didn't start my cosplays until a couple of weeks ago. So I've been like panic sewing all night, hence why I'm covered in spray paint. Like, and now I'm like, will it be finished on time? Who knows? We'll find out. We call it the con crunch, which is where like as it gets closer and closer, the stress levels go up and the midnight sewing begins. Yeah.
Last minute panic is an excellent motivator.
Yeah. Anytime you've got a deadline, right?
Do you ever think to yourself, next year I'm gonna start earlier? Next year I'm gonna be better prepared.
Every year.
I'm gonna.
That is like the phrase of the cosplayer is, oh yeah, don't worry, I'll get it done like weeks before con. Yeah, no, this time will be different. It's never different because there's always like a last minute thing that you hadn't thought about. So I decided to add a cosplay last minute. Like my other 3 have been planned ages in advance, and then I was like, why don't I just do this as well? And I've been hand painting stripes onto a suit for hours. Like, who knew it took so long to paint stripes onto a suit? Because they're like really thin lines. So I'm doing like 4 centimeters of line at a time.
Oh, wow.
Whereas my friend, she's also doing a stripe suit. She's doing Beetlejuice. And she's just like sprayed it. But because my lines are so thin, I was like, no, I have to be precise. I have to do the precision. Which is also my fault. I love to do things the hard way. Because it'll look better at the end if I do it this way. Like I could have glued the sequins, but I was like, what if they fall off? But if I stitch them, they won't fall off.
I know you're like such a stickler for getting like the little details right. Like what is the trickiest thing or like the weirdest thing you've had to make, maybe a prop or a hat or something that you've had to like finagle into existence?
I mean, I made a bomb once. In Agent Carter in season 1, she does like this undercover Veronica Lake look, and she's a bomb. And so I'm like Googling just like random glass bottles on the internet, trying to find something that looked like this very nice 1940s bomb. I managed to actually find it was like some perfume bottle. So I bought a used perfume bottle off of eBay. You can buy anything on eBay. This is something I have learned. And I painted it, and I tried to put lights in it, but I didn't really know what I was doing because this was very early on in my cosplay days. So I ended up hot gluing a strip in the middle, and then I tried to paint the strip in the middle so it looked like it was glowing. It wasn't great. My crafting skills have got better from then, but it's a lot of just see what works and then hot glue and a dream will make it work for the rest of it.
Hot glue in a dream.
Hot
I
glue
love
and a
that.
dream. Over the years, I've collected like things that were not necessarily the ones they used on the show, but the same make and model and everything. Like, so that
Wow.
the Agent Carter's actually, she wears these red sunglasses in the second season. We got that company to start producing those because they were custom. They were hand dyed for the show. We all emailed them and was like, yeah, I really would like to buy these if you made them. And they were like, oh, we'll do a limited run. Like, we'll do a few. It is now, if you go to their website, you can just buy them because so
What?
many of us wanted them. So now they just make them for you to buy. And it's like some TV, like specialized glasses company. Like, they don't really sell to the public, but the power of the Peggies made it happen.
Oh, that's awesome. What is the coolest reaction you've had to one of your cosplays?
I think it's when you're wearing something not recognizable. I was dressed as an animated cat from the musical Cats Don't Dance, which is actually an allegory for the way Black performers were treated in Hollywood in the 1930s, which is a lot for a kid's cartoon. It's a great movie. You should all watch it. Don't be put off by the fact that it's a cartoon. It's a great time. But I went as the main character from that. But I didn't do her as a cat. I didn't have a tail or ears. I just had like a really nice 1930s wig and an outfit. And some guy came up to me and he was so excited to see me that he just started meowing. And I knew exactly what he meant. Because there's a bit in the film with the lead guy, like, he's told he's not allowed to speak on camera because he's a cat. So he starts meow singing. And so this guy just starts meow singing at me, and his girlfriend is looking at him like, what is happening? And it was so nice because I was like, oh, you get it. Because I think only like 2 people that day stopped me because it wasn't super recognizable, which is, I don't do it to be stopped. Like, I wear it because I want to wear that outfit. But it's always nice when someone like picks up on the niche thing. And it's nice to be meowed at. Who knew?
Going back to the theme of the podcast, there's a shared enthusiasm, right? And because it's niche, finding somebody else who knows it and loves it is just even nicer, right?
Oh yeah, I get super excited when I see other Peggy Carter cosplays, and especially now. What If just came out, so now there's like a Captain Carter, and so she's a lot more popular than she has been. But sometimes I forget I'm not dressed as Peggy, because I just assume that everyone knows I'm a Peggy. So I'll be dressed as like Trixie Mattel, and I'll see a Peggy Carter, and I'm like, oh my god! And they're like, who are you? What are you doing? It's like, no, you don't understand. I am one of you.
Out of curiosity, how many Peggy Carters have you done at this point?
So I've done 13. 13 outfits, yeah. There's still more I want to do. Like, there's so many incredible dresses in that show. But there's just not enough time. There's not enough money. So, you know, it's always there. It's always waiting. One day.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that Peggy is probably your favorite character to cosplay?
Yeah. Probably. I mean, I've been doing it since 2015. So that's what, 6 years?
Oof.
6 years of Peggy. It's something about the hat. The hat is really special. Like, after I cosplayed Peggy, that was the first time I competed in the solo jazz competition that evening, or the day after. I think I was just like so like buzzing from being in that outfit. I was like, I can do anything. And then that competition was terrible, and I'm glad no one filmed it. But the confidence, the confidence was there. But I don't know, my favorite changes, like, I really loved my female Captain America cosplay that I did, even though it was the first thing I ever sewed from scratch. And so it doesn't fit properly. Like, the trousers are too short, the sleeves are too long, the shorts don't sit in place, you have to safety pin them on. But it looks great. I love the way it looks in photos. So I'm like, yeah, it changes. Whatever the current thing I'm most proud of moves around.
So what I'm hearing here is that you put on the costume, that's great, but it also makes you feel like that character, like that person, or...
Yeah, it just gives you a level of confidence you wouldn't necessarily have on the street. A lot of cosplayers tend to be people who aren't very confident, or weren't popular at school, or struggle with anxiety or whatever. But you put on a costume, and it's like you can do anything. I think it's the same for most people. Getting ready for con, you're like, oh, it's going to be awful. Nothing's ready. I'm not happy with it. But once you put it on and you get there, you feel like $1,000,000 because in the first 10 minutes, someone will stop you or wave at you or you'll see a friend or it just like, as an atmosphere, it's very uplifting.
So you're seen. Modern life can be very anonymous. Going around a big city, nobody really sees you. But at a convention, you're seen and you're accepted for who you are. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, obviously, you still get the same thing you get in any society, social circle. You get people who are not very nice. But for the most part, lovely people. I can't remember who I was dressed as. Maybe I was dressed as Roxy, actually. And there was a guy dressed as Genie from the Broadway version of Aladdin. He looked amazing because I'd seen the show recently and he'd got all the details down. So I stopped him and I started being like, oh my God, you look amazing. And then he was like, wait, are you Roxy? Oh my God, you look amazing. And it's just like this exchange, which is like, ah! And you do that like 10 to 15 times a day, maybe more depending on what you're dressed as. So you get this whole like, ah! By the end of the day, it's very hard to relax.
Wow. Sounds great. I kind of want to go to a con now.
It is great. It is a wonderful, wonderful time. Yeah, I love it. I miss it. I haven't been to a convention in 2 years. Because doing cosplay at home isn't quite the same.
Speaking of at-home Instagram cosplay, we need to talk about the Muppets.
Yes, we do. We always need to talk about the Muppets.
What? Okay, I have many questions about this project. What made you think to do that? Actually, wait, no. Before we do that, would you like to describe, maybe to those people listening to the podcast who haven't seen it yet, when I say the Muppets, Colbert, what am I talking about?
I decided that I was going to cosplay multiple Muppets. But for most people, when they cosplay the Muppets, like if you look up Kermit cosplays, it's just like a woman in a green dress and she's like, I'm Kermit. No, I wanted to get as close to being an actual Muppet as possible. I wanted to be in the uncanny valley, almost made of felt level of Muppet cosplay. Because why not? Why not go as hard as you can? I don't just want to wear a green wig. Paint me green, stick felt to my face, and I'll be happy.
Why Muppets? What inspired that particular obsession?
I've always loved the Muppets. When I was a kid, that we had the VHS of the first 3 original movies, and I would watch it over and over and over again. I quote it in my daily life. There's nothing about the Muppets that I don't like, and especially then I got the Muppet Show series from the 70s on DVD years ago, and it's basically traditional English musical / vaudeville, which is already like my favorite thing anyway, like variety shows, ye oldie, like turn of the century music, and then add puppets to that, you've got a winner. There's also there's just like a chaotic energy to the Muppets that I've always enjoyed. Like they're absolutely batshit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of always wanted to try and work out how to cosplay them, specifically Miss Piggy. There's one outfit in particular, which I said if I had been invited to the Met Gala for the camp edition, I would have gone as Miss Piggy. Because there's a scene where she does an underwater ballet and she's in this swimming costume with a big cape. And as she opens, if you have subtitles on, it's like gasps of awe. And I'm like, that would be me. Just like revealing myself as Miss Piggy at the Met Gala. But I've always wanted to do that, and I've just never got around to doing it at a convention. And so I was finally just like, oh, what if I just did them from stuff I had in the house? Like, what if I just threw some together and was like, well, okay, I'll do them for a week run up to Halloween. So I'll do 5, because that'll be 5 days. So I did the original 5 Muppets for my first set. Gotta start with Kermit, obviously. So Kermit, Fozzie, Miss Piggy, Gonzo, and Rolf, which to me are like the 5.
Gonzo.
Like, which is funny. Gonzo was the least well received, only because I think people didn't realize what it was meant to be.
Your nose was so weird, dude.
I love it. So I sewed his like crooked phallic nose out of felt and stuck it to my face. And was like, yeah, people will get that this is Gonzo, right? I think that's the one that gets in like a weird area. I feel like Kermit is very recognizable. Miss Piggy was very recognizable. Gonzo was very uncanny valley. It was very questionable. But I love it.
Yeah, Gonzo was really freaking weird.
Those are just clothes I own. So I didn't actually have to buy anything apart from the wig, and I made the nose, and that was about it. My first set of Muppets was a lot easier than my second set of Muppets to put together. The second set, I was going to do the band. So there's the Electric Mayhem is like the funk band of the Muppets.
Animal.
Yeah, so Animal, that might have been my favourite one that I did, actually. But that obviously required a lot more sewing. I was like, oh yeah, I'll have this ready for the beginning of the year, and then it took till like April, May, March. I don't know when I posted it, but it was a lot further down the line than I was expecting.
For those listening, we will 100% be linking Colbert's Instagram so that you can see
Please.
these. The animal one is worth looking at solely for the monobrow.
Oh, I'm so proud of that eyebrow. That I glued to. Actually, maybe I taped it. I think I actually double-sided taped that to my forehead. Yeah.
The level of commitment.
That's the worst that could happen. I'm actually trying to currently build the opening of the Muppets. So there's a bit in the Muppet Show theme song where they're all in white windows and they sing like this is... Yeah. So I've green screened myself as a bunch of the Muppets and I'm trying to insert myself into the little windows until I'm everyone.
Do you have like a white whale project, something you really want to do, but it's just, too complicated, too scary, too much?
Giselle's wedding dress from the opening of Enchanted. So in Enchanted, she arrives in New York in the world's biggest ball gown that you've ever seen and the world's biggest wig. And that is the dream project. There are companies that make things. They'll just make the cosplay outright. But for me, the joy is in the sewing and the making process and all the creative side of it. So I'd want to make it myself. But I've only ever made one ball gown and it didn't go that well. So I'm not quite ready to make another ball gown just yet.
I don't think there's many people in this world that can say, like, I've already made a ball gown. Like,
well, I made
you're so casually about that. It's like, I made a ball gown already, no big deal.
Well, I made a ball gown without knowing how one is supposed to make a ball gown. So I was like, if I just make a really big circle skirt, that's the same thing, right? Not really. And I decided to use like chiffon, which is the devil fabric. Never work with chiffon. It looks beautiful. But trying to sew that is just not the one. And it was, the skirt was uneven. The top was like all wrinkly. And I also burnt a hole in it the night before I wore it. And it didn't fill me with confidence that I could make another ball gown anytime soon. Like, I feel more confident than I used to, but I'm not that confident. Not there yet.
So when you pick your characters, do you base it on how masochistic you're feeling at the moment? Like, how much 8-hour beating days are you gonna need? Like, is that how you choose your characters?
I mean, sometimes if I'm doing it with someone else. So originally I was actually meant to be doing Roxy with a Velma, and she ended up pulling out for whatever reason, but by that point it was too late. Like, the decision had been made, so I had to just carry on. And I did actually meet another Roxy and Velma that day, so I wasn't alone. So that was nice. So yeah, sometimes if you've got a group and you want to do something with the group, I have a mental list of cosplays I want to do, and I tend to have a vague idea of when I want to do them. But sometimes it just, the right time never comes up. Like, I've always wanted to do Daphne from Scooby Doo. Like, she's been such an icon since I was a kid. I was like, I want to dress up as Daphne from Scooby Doo. But it wasn't until last year that I did it, because I've just never had a reason to do it. But sometimes it's just like that long-term burning love that you've always had bubbles up. It's like, now is the time. It shall happen. And like, me and my friends, we went to this abandoned church that she found in the middle of nowhere. And so I was like, well, I'll go as Daphne, because what else would I go as to an abandoned church?
Nice.
If somebody wanted to get into cosplay, what do you think would be a good way to go about it?
I know a lot of people that take classes. I am not that person. I just kind of sat myself down and then watched some YouTube tutorials. And to this day, I'll be doing something and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Let's just Google it. And someone will tell me. And then it'll happen. But I will say, when I first started making stuff, everything I've made has had something wrong with it. To this day, every costume I've ever made has had a flaw. With cosplay, you really kind of just like have to don't be afraid to fail, because you will fail. Like, I've messed up so many wigs. I've broken so many props. I made these boosters for a Star-Lord cosplay and they broke the second I walked into con. Bad things will happen, but that's all part of it. It's not perfect. This is something that you've spent time and effort and you've made. And so even when it goes wrong, you're like, well, I still made it from nothing. So it doesn't matter if I've got a wonky seam or if something falls off.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone to a convention fully safety pinned up the back because the zip had split in the morning. But people understand. They're like, yeah, been there. Don't worry about it. You look great from the front. Well, a lot of people are like, oh, who should I cosplay? And for me, if you're asking that question, my question is, why are you cosplaying? Because like some people just want to dress up and I get that. But for me, there's such a love behind the characters. I've got a list longer than I could write of characters I would be happy cosplaying and things that I want to do. Just think of your favorite TV show. Who is your favorite character? Then that's the person you should cosplay as. Because some people, they're like, oh, I'll cosplay someone I look like. But there's no fun in that. Just because you look like someone, yeah, it's like, but do you care about it? You don't get the same level of enjoyment just because you look like someone as you do to like, no, but I really love this character.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly if you're going to be putting all the time in to make the costume and sew it. Like, that's hours of work.
Yeah.
And you got to have the enthusiasm for that character behind it. Otherwise, like, halfway through, you're going to be like, why am I doing this? This is so stupid.
And some people do buy pre-made cosplays, which is also totally valid. But I would just say, like, pick someone that you really like. Because I know people that have worn cosplays of people they don't even know. Because they were like, well, she's blonde. And I'm like, it defeats the point. You're not going to get the same level of connection and enjoyment out of it if you're just cosplaying someone because, oh, well, I have the same color hair as that person, so I guess that'll do. If you're asking yourself, who should I cosplay? I always throw that back and I'm like, who do you want to cosplay? Because it's not about what I think. It doesn't matter who you look like. It's whatever you really want to do.
We were going to ask you what you think Katie and I might cosplay as, but I think we should throw it back to ourselves now.
Yes. Who do you want to cosplay?
Yeah, Katie, what do you think? What's a character you love that you could...
I do actually have a suggestion for Katie, but I also think it's something she loves. So
I have one. I have one too.
I want to hear both of your suggestions then. I'm curious.
Azula.
I was thinking Azula as well.
You've got big Azula energy.
I do. Also, if you've seen Shang-Chi, like his sister.
Yes! Oh my god, you absolutely need to do that for Halloween. It's this weekend, Katie.
I don't have time. Like, when I left the cinema, I was like, I need to cosplay as her. Because, one, boss-ass bitch. Two, also Asian. Yay, Chinese representation. And also, I really like her black and gold outfit. It's not just a dress. It is a Chinese cut of a dress, which is why it's so appealing to me. Because, hi, I'm Chinese. So, yeah. I was thinking, like, Azula or Shang-Chi's sister.
Yeah.
Who did you think for me, Alex? I'm curious.
I was actually thinking Toph. Yeah,
so
Toph from The Last Airbender. She's badass.
She is. I feel like the vibe for me is, are they a badass Asian woman who would probably kill you? That's my energy. Thank you. Thank you for recognizing my energy, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alex, who were you thinking for yourself?
Yeah. Staying with the Marvel theme, Bruce Banner.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Yes, yeah, that'd be a good one.
I'm feeling like Thor Ragnarok, Bruce.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, right. A nerd with 7 PhDs, right?
Yeah, very on brand. Very on brand.
We love a Bruce.
So now that we've heard from Agent Colbert, what do you think of cosplay? Is there a particular character you are now super inspired to try out? Where is your enthusiasm taking you in the world of costuming? Pop us a note on Instagram or on our website and let us know, because we want to hear from you.
Also, how many beads do you think you could sew on in a day? Alrighty. In this moment of meta, we want to talk about enthusiasm for yourself. Katie, in our episode on Chargingtons, you said that it's important to be enthusiastic about yourself. Why do you say that?
I think it's because I have no sense of humility whatsoever. But also, I think I said this in that episode, but you have to be your own hype man a little bit.
Yes.
I think there are people in this world who are going to be your supporters, who are going to cheer you on 100%. But if you're always relying on the external validation to find that confidence, what happens if those people stop supporting you? You got to have that in source internally. So that way, no matter what happens, you have that confidence, you have that self-belief, that enthusiasm that you got this.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. And it turns out that most people actually do. There's a fun experiment they've done where they ask a lot of people, do you think you're better at something than the average person? So, for instance, if you ask 1,000 Americans, are you more intelligent than the average person? How many do you think say yes?
Everyone thinks they're better than average. I'm going to say like 80% of people think they're better than average, which is statistically impossible.
Exactly. That is statistically impossible. But depending on what kind of question you ask, you get different numbers. So, for instance, if you ask people, are you more intelligent than the average person? About two-thirds say yes. If you
Mm.
ask people, are you a better driver than the average person? It's like 90% that say absolutely all the other idiots in the road are morons. I'm the
Yep.
only good driver on the street right now. This overly positive self-image has a name. It's called the Lake Wobegon Effect. The American novelist Garrison Keillor wrote a novel called Lake Wobegon Days about a fictional town called Lake Wobegon, where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the children are above average.
That feels a little bit like the sentence from The Incredibles, and when everyone's super, nobody is.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, not everybody can be above average, but most of us think we are. But that's a good thing. You know who has a very realistic self image?
Not us?
Not us. Very true. People with depression.
Oh, that's not fun.
Yeah. No. People who suffer from depression are way better at reliably and accurately gauging their own strengths and abilities. That might be a consequence of their depression, or it might be a source of their depression. So, having an overly positive self image is probably a good thing, and most people do.
Mm,
I think it's important to have enthusiasm for yourself, even though you're not perfect. It's not saying, oh my God, I'm awesome, I have no flaws. It's
mm-mm,
about liking yourself, being excited about yourself, even though you do have those flaws.
mm.
Um, Katie, what kind of student were you?
I was a very excited person in class. I really
Mm-hmm.
liked learning. I liked being the teacher's pet, but I
Mm-hmm.
also had ADHD. So I would also not hand in my homework ever, not finish my assignments on time. Surprising nobody who knows me. If you've listened to this podcast for a hot second, you might have been able to guess that.
Yeah, yeah, I was very much the same. Did you have classmates who were always prepared for class and did their homework ahead of time and had read up on the
Oh,
subject before the class? Do you have any of those classmates?
yeah, I had some of those classmates for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bastards, right?
I'm like, how did you guys do that? Like, I don't understand how you're capable of that.
Exactly. I don't know about you, but I used to beat myself up over not being like them because I was always the
Mm,
person who never prepared. I do my homework last minute. And yet somehow I did graduate from school and from high school and get a university degree.
yeah.
Um, at one point, a realization came to me that that's just not who I am, and I am never going to be that person. I could, spend the rest of my life beating myself up over it, or I could just accept that there are some strengths here that I don't have, but there are other strengths that I do have. And maybe if I was diligent and well prepared and organized, I wouldn't be as creative or enthusiastic or I don't know, something else, right?
Yeah.
So, enthusiasm for yourself, for me at least, doesn't mean saying I'm perfect. It means I'm not perfect, but I can still like myself and I can focus on my strengths and maybe
Yeah.
and accept my flaws.
I also think like we maybe can do another moment of meta about perfectionism because I have a lot of
Hmm.
feelings about perfectionism, and as a dance teacher and as somebody who tries to make art and be creative, like perfection isn't real. It's unattainable, it's unachievable, it's not real.
Yeah,
And
no.
like it's better to have something out there in the world and to try it at whatever state it's at than never to do it because it's not going to be good enough for your own impossible standards. And I think that when we talk about this idea of, I love this line that you've written in the script, enthusiasm for yourself, even though you're not perfect. Perfect
Mm-hmm.
isn't real. It's not a thing. So you can't ever be that. So you might as well be enthusiastic for the person that you actually are and the person that you're capable of being.
Yes. And that ability to see your good sides and your bad sides and
Mm-hmm.
accept both and then be enthusiastic about who you are, I think that is crucial. There is a fantastic quote that I think you should read. It says on the internet that it's from Spencer Tracy, the actor. I cannot verify that, and there are so many fake quotes out there. But it's a great quote anyways.
It is up to us to give ourselves recognition. If we wait for it to come from others, we feel resentful when it doesn't. And when it does, we may well reject it. Yes! I have so many feelings about this quote. Oh my goodness. Okay, first of all, it's talking about internal validation versus external validation. I love this. I love it. You have to find it inside yourself. Give yourself your own recognition. Yes.
Mhm.
And then we've talked about this, the importance of accepting positive validation from the outside, because when it does, we may well reject it. It is
Mhm.
so hard to accept compliments. It
Mhm.
is so hard to believe it when somebody is enthusiastic about you or what you do. I may have told you this line before, but I'm going to repeat it again. If someone offers you a compliment, someone's enthusiastic about who you are and what you do, all you say is, "Thank you for noticing. I worked really hard on it."
Yes.
And like, you just practice saying that over and over again anytime anyone says something nice about you. And then eventually you start to believe it. And then eventually you can just accept freaking compliments.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I've given somebody a compliment and they're just like, oh, it's nothing special, or you
Yeah.
start explaining it away instead of just
Yes.
accepting a genuine compliment.
And like, when someone, like, let's say I tell you, "Alex, I love how passionate you are about quantum physics, even though I don't understand it." If you then just brush it to one side, like, "Oh, well, not really. I don't really get it myself." One, you're telling me as a person who's offering you enthusiasm and validation that what I've just done is not valuable, it's not useful. So it's dismissing the person that's speaking to you. And
Hmm.
secondly, you're not allowing yourself to take it in. You're not allowing yourself to absorb that information. So, thank you for
Exactly.
noticing. I worked really hard on it. Practice it.
Yes.
Say it.
That's the way to receive a compliment.
Yes.
And that was this episode's Moment of Meta.
It was so many tangents. So many tangents. I got too excited. This is such a good one. We're going to expand on this one another time.
We are all about the tangents.
Everything. It all loops back. It's all connected. Oh my goodness. What a moment.
And if it isn't, we'll find a tangent that does connect it.
Hells yeah, we will. And now go get some hot glue and some dreams.